Okay, today's video is going to be a little bit shorter than the past couple videos. We've already talked about a lot about what we're going to talk about today. When we talked about slope on a table and when we were first talking about slope on a graph. So today's lesson is how do we find slope when we're given just 2 points? Okay, how do we find what the slope of a line is if they just give us 2 points? And what I'm saying is not just on a graph, like not if they give us the points on the graph, but what happens when they give us 2 points and they just list them as ordered pairs? Like what if they gave us the point 2, 4 and the point 3, negative 4? Then our question would be, what is our slope? Okay, now there is actually a formula. It's called the slope formula that we can use to figure this out. Okay, I'm going to show you the formula, but sometimes the formula is not always the best way. Sometimes it'd be better to turn to a graph, plot the points, and count your rise and your run, your vertical change, your horizontal change. Okay, but I'm going to show you the formula anyway, just so you've been shown and you know what it looks like and things like that. Okay, the formula, the slope formula. Okay, now there's not a space on your note sheet for this, so you may have to do this in your spiral notebook. You may have to do this on just a loose piece of paper or in the blank spaces on your notes packet. Okay, the slope formula is simply this. Okay, our slope is m. It's simply this. We take our y2. That looks like 1/2, doesn't it? Let's try that again. Okay, let's try that again. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's try that again. We'll do y2, okay, y2 minus y1. Okay, and what I mean by that is this right here is x1. This is y1. We simply call them that because that's the x and the y from the first ordered pair. And since this is the second ordered pair, this would be x2 and this would be y2. Okay, so all we do is take the second y value and subtract the first y value. Okay, that would be our vertical change. Now, on the bottom here, if we did y2 minus y1 when we're doing our horizontal change, it probably makes sense that we would do x2 minus x1. Okay, x1. Let me rewrite that just so it's a little bit clearer. Okay, x1. Okay, so basically all we're doing is we're finding the difference. We're finding the distance from one y to the next and from one x to the next. So we're finding our vertical change and our horizontal change. So if we use this formula, let's plug in the values we have in our example here, and let's use this formula to figure out our slope. Okay, I'm going to change to blue to show that we're working out a problem. Okay, so the formula says to do y2 minus y1. Which of those y values is the y2? Well, it'd be our negative 4, right? The one from right here. Okay. And then we're supposed to subtract y1. So we go minus the first y, which is a 4. Okay. So we've plugged in the top. All right. This part is the top of the fraction. Then we have the bottom of the fraction. We do x2, which is our 3, minus our x1, which is our 2. Okay, we've got to do those two things before anything else, before we simplify or anything like that. Okay, so we do the top. What is a negative 4 minus 4? Well, think about it. They're both bad guys. So 4 bad guys and 4 more bad guys. That makes a total of 8 bad guys. So negative 8. And 3 minus 2, that's a little easier. 3 minus 2 is 1. So our slope here is negative 8 over 1. Or we might just simply say negative 8. Okay, this right here is our slope. So we can use the slope formula to figure out what our slope would be between 2 points. Now, for those of you who aren't as good at formulas, or maybe formulas make you nervous or something, what if we were given those same 2 points, and instead of using the formula, we simply plotted them on the graph? Okay, if I go to 2, 4, that would be right here. And if I go to 3, negative 4, that would be right here. Okay? So I'm finding the slope between these 2 points. It's the slope of the line that would connect them. Okay? If I find the slope between these 2 points, I need to find my vertical change. Okay, I'm going to do my vertical change in black. My vertical change means I would be going down, 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 down. Okay? We go down, so a negative 8. And then my horizontal change is simply just a little move to the right. And that's only 1 to the right, so that's a positive 1. Notice these numbers, this negative 8 and this positive 1, they match these numbers, negative 8 and positive 1. So our slope, our difference of the y's is how we got this negative 8. Our difference of the x's is how we got this plus 1. Okay? y2 minus y1 gave us our vertical change. x2 minus x1 gave us our horizontal change. So our slope is still found the same way. Okay? So we can connect it back to the way we did before. If they give you 2 points like this, okay, just like they did in this problem, here's 1 point, here's another point. If they give you 2 points like that, go with the way you're comfortable. If you'd like to pull out some graph paper and graph the 2 points and count your vertical change and horizontal change to find your slope, do it. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If you're comfortable with this formula that we just learned, use the formula. Plug in your second y here, your first y here, and subtract them. Second x here, first x here, and subtract them. And then you've got your ratio, your fraction. So the slope formula works for when they give you 2 points, but so does a graph. Okay? So do what you're comfortable with to figure out your slope. Now, what happens with those 2 special cases? Do you remember this past Thursday, almost, I guess it was a whole week ago now, last Thursday we talked about slope in general, and we said that there were 4 possible slopes. We said that we could either have a positive slope going up from left to right. We could have a negative slope, which went down from left to right. We could have a vertical, ooh, that was a terrible vertical line. Let's try that again. Okay, let's try that again. We could have a vertical line. Ooh, got a little squiggly, but that's not too bad. And we could have a horizontal line. Okay? And we said this was called positive, this one was called negative, this slope was undefined, and this one was 0. Okay? These 2 bottom ones, the vertical line and the horizontal line, these are our special cases. Okay? And we're going to talk about that on the next page of the notes. Okay? So turn with me to that next page. It looks just like this. It says special lines. Okay? It says, what is the slope of a horizontal or vertical line? Plot the points on the graphs provided and draw a smooth line through the points. Then complete the tables to find the slopes in these special cases. Okay, I'm going to zoom in to just this one right here. Okay, so I have a little bit larger space to work with. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. There we go. And everybody look at this one with me. Okay, our equation says y equals 2. Okay, and then they give us a table of points down here, right? They say when x is negative 2, y is 2. When x is 0, y is 2. When x is 4, y is 2, and so forth, right? Everywhere, y equals 2. So let's plot these 4 points on the graph and see what it looks like. Okay, so negative 2, 2. I'm going to do my best to get these on here accurately. Let's try this. All right, negative 2, 2. There's 1 point. 0, 2. Okay, right there. 4, 2 is right there. And 7, 2 would be right there. Now, if we were to draw a line through these 4 points, I'm going to do my best to draw it nice and straight. Okay, if we drew a line through these 4 points, oh, looky there. That was a pretty line. Okay, this is what we would call a horizontal line. And from our discussion last Thursday, we know that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. Now, let's use our knowledge of finding slope from a table to figure out why our slope is 0, okay? Let's do that. What is our change? Okay, in this box right here, we're looking at this box right here. What is our change in y? Remember that little triangle right here, that's the Greek letter delta. and it means the change in y. What is our change in y? How much does our y change from 2 to 2? Well, hopefully you've said none. It doesn't change, right? From 2 to 2, nothing changed. What is our change in x from negative 2 to 0? Well, that's a positive 2, isn't it? So our change in x goes on bottom. What is 0 divided by 2? That's right, 0. Okay? I feel a little bit like Dora the Explorer right now. I ask questions and I have no idea if you're answering me. So right there, we have a slope of 0. Let's see if that stays true through the rest of the table. Okay? All right, so what is the change in y from 2 to 2? Well, again, that's nothing. There is no change when you go from 2 to 2. Okay, what about our x change? What's the change in x from 0 to 4? Well, this would have a change of 4, right? Positive 4. Okay, so we put that here. 0 divided by 4 is still 0. So our slope appears that it's going to be 0. Let's do the last bit of table. Okay, from 2 to 2 makes 0. From 4 to 7 makes 3. So we put our change in x on bottom. 0 divided by 3 is still 0. So it appears that no matter what set of points we look at from our table, sorry about that, I lost my microphone. Got pulled out of my ears, kind of hurt. Okay, sorry. It appears that from our table, from all the data in our table, our x's and our y's, and what it looks like on the graph and all that, it appears that no matter what points we choose, the slope will always be 0. And that's true for any horizontal line. Any horizontal line, their slope is 0. And now you've seen it on a graph, and you've seen it on a table, okay? Let's take a look at our other special case, okay? At our other special case. Let's look at x equals negative 4. Notice what that means, okay? If x equals negative 4, notice all my x values are negative 4, okay? We're saying that x always equals negative 4. No matter what the y is, our x equals negative 4. That's what we're saying. Okay, so let's try to plot these points on here very carefully. Okay, so negative 4, negative 5 would be right here. Negative 4, negative 3 would be right here. Negative 4, 1 would be right here. And negative 4, 10 is way up here. Okay? So I have those 4 points. Now let's see if I can draw as pretty a line as I did a second ago. Let's see if I can connect these guys together. Well, it's nice and straight. Just a little bit off. All right. So I've got a vertical line, right? We call this a vertical line. Anytime it says x equals a number, you've got a vertical line. Okay? So let's talk about why is our slope undefined in this situation. Okay? Why is it undefined in this situation? Well, let's talk about our change in y versus our change in x. Okay? Same thing we did in that other table. Let's do our change in y. How do we get from a negative 5 to a negative 3? Well, if you think about a number line, we have to go up, or in the positive direction, 2 spaces. How do I get from a negative 4 to a negative 4? Well, that's easy. I don't move. Okay? We have a 0 change there. So 2 divided by 0. I want you to type this into your calculator. If you don't have your calculator, go get your calculator. I'll wait. Okay, everybody got their calculator? Okay. All right, so everybody's got their calculator now. Turn it on. Go to your scratch pad. All right, I want you to type in 2 divided by 0. Okay? 2 divided by 0 and hit enter. It should pop up with undefined. undefined. Okay, now it probably stops at the F, UNDEF, undefined. Okay, stands for the word undefined. Basically, what this calculator is telling you and what I'm telling you is it is impossible to divide by 0. If there is a number, we cannot divide it into nothing. We cannot split up 10 pieces of candy into nothing. It has to be at least in one group, right? We can't take 10 pieces of candy and give it to and split it into 0 groups. It's not possible. If you don't split it at all, it's still one group of 10. Okay? It is impossible to divide by 0. So because our change in x is 0, our slope is undefined. Okay, let's see if that stays true with all this information. Okay? How do I get from a -3 to a +1? Well, I'd have to go 3 spots to the 0 and 1 more spot to the 1 on the number line. So that's a +4. And how do I go again from -4 to -4? Well, I don't move. It's a 0 change. Okay, so 4 divided by 0. If you still don't believe me, type it in your calculator. 4 divided by 0. Hit enter and you'll see it pops up with undefined. Okay? Now, I'm usually going to abbreviate it with just UND, and that'll stand for undefined. Okay? And one more. Let's test it out one more time. Make sure I'm not lying. Okay? How do I get from 1 to 10? That'd be a jump of 9. And how do I get from -4 to -4? I don't move. Okay? So 9 divided by 0, if you type that in your calculator again, you're going to notice, again, it pops up with undefined. Okay, so these are what we call our special cases. A 0 slope for a horizontal line, a undefined slope for a vertical line. So let's summarize that right here in A and B. A and B say the slope of a horizontal line is 0. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. Okay? Undefined. Okay? That word defined, in your English classes you define words, you give words a definition, a meaning. Okay? Since we are undefined, there is no definition to this slope. There is no, it doesn't exist. Okay? So it's undefined. All right, let's look at these two little guided practice problems real quick, and then I'll let you get started on the practice problems on the next 3 pages, which, by the way, is your assignment. I'll say that again here in a second. All right. We haven't talked a whole lot about this, but this question says, which line is the steepest and why? Okay? But think about all the slopes that you've come across this week. Okay? Your steeper lines always had a bigger number. Okay, and we talked about that a little bit on, let's see, I guess that was on Tuesday. No, I guess it was back on Monday. On Monday, we defined what slope was and things like that, and we talked about some of the attributes, and we said that the bigger the number, okay, the bigger the number, the faster the change, the steeper the line, okay? And so which of these 3 equations has the biggest slope? Well, some of you might be saying, Mr. Hahn, there is no slope. I don't see a slope. Remember that our linear equations look like this. Y equals mx. And so whatever number is in front of the x in the m position, that's your slope. Okay? So in letter A, our slope, our m, equals 2. In letter B, our m equals -1. Remember the ninja. Okay? And in letter C, our m equals 0.5. Okay? Oh, that was awful. Let's undo that. 0.5. That's just as bad, but oh well. Okay. So which of these numbers is the biggest? Which one would give the fastest rate of change? If you were spending money, would you rather spend 50 cents at a time, $2 at a time, or $1 at a time, basically? Well, you would lose money faster if you were spending $2 at a time, right? So that's the steeper line. So it says which line is steepest? Well, A would be the steepest line in this situation. okay? All right, number 2 says write one example of an equation, okay, it needs to look like this, that makes the graph of y equals x less steep. Less steep, that means flatter, okay? So right now, y equals x, that's y equals 1x. If we want to be less steep, if we want to be flatter, okay, if we want to be more like Plainview and Lockney where we have flat ground, no hills, okay, if we want to be flatter, then we need to have a smaller number than 1, okay? But it can't be 0 because 0 is perfectly flat. We don't want it to be completely flat. We want it to be at a slight angle, but we want it to be less steep than y equals 1x. Okay, so a number that is smaller than 1 but bigger than 0. So we've got to go with a decimal or a fraction, right? So I'm thinking something like y equals 1/2 x. Isn't 1/2 smaller than 1 and bigger than 0? Okay. You can do anything that's smaller than 1, bigger than 0. You could say y equals 0.7x. You could say y equals 0.2x. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's smaller than 1 but bigger than 0, so that it has a slope, but it's less steep than 1x. Okay, your assignment for today, for the rest of this class, and it will be homework if you don't finish it, is to do the last 3 pages in this notes packet. Okay, at the top of that first page there it says practice problems. Okay, and there are I think there's only 6 problems or something like that. They each have a couple parts though. Okay, let me look it up real quick. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you. Okay, I don't like lying to people. I'm almost there. Okay. Yeah, practice problems. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the front, and all you're telling me is what is the slope. Okay? If it's a vertical line, it's automatically undefined. If it's horizontal, it's automatically 0. If it's at an angle, you've got to figure it out. You've got to choose 2 points on the line and count your vertical change and horizontal change. Oh, I would have lied to you. There's 15 problems. Okay? 5, 6, 7, and 8, they give you a table. Okay? And they give you space to do some work there to figure out what your slope is. Once you know your slope, put it down there where it says slope equals. Okay? Pay attention and pay attention to your special cases. Make sure that you take those into account. All right, number 9 and number 10, they give you 2 points. Okay, there's nothing stopping you from going to a graph, plotting those 2 points, and simply counting your change in y and your change in x and making your fraction that way. Okay, if you want to use the formula, that's fine. Number 11 and 12, okay, 11 and 12 are equations. We know where the slope is. It's always right in front of the x, so that's kind of a freebie. It's just the number in front of the x, or fraction in front of the x. And then number 13 and 14 are special case, they're special case equations, okay? We saw earlier in these notes, we saw when it says y equals, you have a horizontal line, so you know what your slope is. And x equals is a vertical line, so you know what your slope is automatically. And then number 15, you know what? Don't worry about 15. Just do page 6 and page 7, okay? 1 through 14. Just do those. Don't worry about number 15, okay? Also, you have a quiz tomorrow over slope. Everything you've learned this week and what we talked about on Thursday and Friday last week, okay? You're going to take a quiz tomorrow on slope. So study, 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 study. Oh, I forgot to say, study. Okay? Be sure to study for your quiz tomorrow. All right. Remember that you can watch this video as many times as you like because I have emailed a link to these videos on YouTube. So if you're at home and you're like, I don't remember how to do any of this. Mr. Alhadi's not here. I'm so confused. Okay, go back, watch these videos again, rewind, pause, whatever you've got to do. Okay, study for the quiz tomorrow. and y'all have a great evening.